Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Pranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Prapta Sakalyana Gunanavasya Vande Gurashi Charanaravindam Prapta Sakalyana Gunanavasya Vande Gurashi Charanaravindam Vande Gurashi Charanaravindam Vande Gurashi Charanaravindam Charanaravindam Vande Gurashi Charanaravindam Mahaprabhu ki Tana Nritya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Sena Mahaprabhu Tana Nritya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Bhajo Vande Gurashi Charanaravindam Taranga Bhajo Vande Gurashi Charanaravindam Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shringaratanama Niramajanado Shri Vigrahara Shringaratan Juktasya Bhaktam Sa Niyunjatopi Vande Gurashi Charanaravindam Juktasya Bhaktam Sa Niyunjatopi Vande Gurashi Charanaravindam Chaturvedha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Satana Triptan Hari Bhakta Shanga Chaturvedha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Satana Triptan Kridvaiva Tripte Vajata Shadeva Vande Gurashi Charanaravindam Shirarikama Bhabayara Para Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Namna Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Namna Pratikshana Dhanalopasya Vande Gurashi Charanaravindam Pratikshana Dhanalopasya Vande Gurashi Charanaravindam Ne Kunjayuno Ratikeri Siddhai Jayali Virjuktir Apekshaneya Nikundayuna Ratikeri Siddhai Jayali Virjuktir Tatrati Daksha Ativalavasya Vande Gora Shri Charanara Vrindam Sakcha Dharitena Shamasta Shastre Rutastathava Gataiva Sarve Pintu Pravarja Priyaeva Tasya Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrinda Priyaeva Tasya Vande Gurashi Charanara Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada Yasya prasadam nagati kutapi Yasya prasadam nagati kutapi Dhyayam stubham tasya yasatrin sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Yasakri Sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachatyade Shatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Namah, Krishna Jadavaye Namah, Hare Jadavaye Madhavaya Kesavaya Namah, Jadavaye Madhavaye Keshavaya Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Gopal Govinda Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhattaraguna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Shri Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhava Radhe Jayo Radha Jaya Jagannath Jayo Baladeva Jayo Subhadrama Jayo Sudarshan Chakra Jaya Sitaram Jayo Sitaram Sitaram Jayo Lakshman Hanuman Sitaram 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 Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Lakshmi Narasingha Jayo Prahlad Maharaj Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Nitai Gaura Haribo Haribo Nitai Gaura Pramanande Hari Haribo Jai Vishnu Paraparamita Prabhajakacharya Sutra Shishimar His Divine Grace Abhojala Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Iskon Pratishta Vividi Samstapakachar Vaishnava Siramani Gaura Priyajana Patita Pavana Srila Prabhupada Ji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Gaurya Guru Varga Patitu Dhar ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatra Gunata Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Gunasat Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur ji ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi ki jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्री गौर भक्त वृंद की जय. जय परम दयाल श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय. प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिदानंद स्मरण गौरंग चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि मावरणावतार की जय. गौलोकेर प्रमधान हरि नाम संकीर्तन जग की जय. जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय. Brihad Nidanga Transcendental Book Distribution Seva ki jai. Shishya Radha Krishna Gop Gopna Radha Kun Sam Kun Giriraj Govardhan ki jai. Shri Brajabhum Vrindavan Mathurdham ki jai. The Lordship Shishya Radha Nilamadhava ki jai. Shri Maya Purnavadip Eka Chakradham ki jai. Paramakaruna Shishya Gaur Nitai ki jai. Shri Purushottam Ketra Jagannath Pridham ki jai. Shri Shri Jagannath Swami Baladev Prabhu Smasvadra Devi Sudarshan Chakra Bhagavan ki jai. Bhakti Sarvigna Vinashana Kanishingare Bhagavan ki jai. Jaganga Mai Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulasi Devi Vrindi Devi Maharani ki jai. Shri Mathura Dharani ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrindi ki jai. Nitai Gaurari Pramanandi Haribo. All glories to the assembly bodies. All glories to the assembly bodies. All glories to the assembly bodies. All glories to Shri Guru Shri Gauranga. Namaste Narasingaya. Namaste Narasingaya. Pralada Lada Daine. Hiranyakasipur Bhaksha. silatang nakalaye. Ito nisinga parato nisinga. Jato jato jamita to nisinga. Bahir nisinga, hrudaye nisinga. Narasingha Madim Sharanam Prapade. Tabakara Kamala Bare Nakam Adabhuta Singha Dalita Hiranyakashipo Tanabringa Kesavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Tabakara Kamala Vare Nakam Adabhuta Singha Dalita Hiranyakasipo Tanabringa Kesavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Kesavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Kesavadruta Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Jayo Nisingade Jayo Nisingade Nisingade Jayo Nisingade Jayo Narahari, Jayo Narahari, Narahari, Jayo Narahari, Jayo Narahari. Jayo Lakshmi Narasingha, Jayo Lakshmi Narasingha, Jayo Lakshmi Narasingha, Jayo Lakshmi Narasingha. Jaya Bhakta Prahlad, Prahlad Maharaj, Bhakta Prahlad, Srila Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Bhakta Prahlad, Srila Prahlad Maharaj. Jai Shri Shri Bhakti Pada Sarva Vignashana Karishingari Bhagavan ki Jai, Bhakta Shrestha Prahlad Maharaj ki Jai. Nitai Gaurari Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Vrindai tulasi devai priyayai kesava satya Vishnu bhakti prade devi Shatavatai namo namaha Priyayai kesava satya Vishnu bhakti prade devi Vrindai tulasi devai priyayai kesava satya Vishnu bhakti prade devi Shatavatai namo namaha Vrindai tulasi devai priyayai kesava satya Vishnu bhakti prade devi Shatavatai namo namaha Jai Srimati Tulasi Maharani Vrindadevi ki Jai. Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Priyasi Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Priyasi Namo Namaha Radha Krishna se Papa Eya Vilasi Radha Krishna se Papa Radha Krishna se Papa Eya Vilasi Radha Krishna Seva Bhava Hey Yobi Jai Tomara Sharanala Tara Vancha Puna Jai Tomara Kripa kari karatare Vrindavanavasi Tumi kripa kari karatare Vrindavanavasi Muraya Vela Vilas Kunje Diyava Moraya Kunje Diyava Nayane Ribo Sada Jugala Ruparasi Aminayane Ribo Sada Jagala Ruparasi Eini Vedana Dhara Sakirayano Gata Koro Eini Vedana Dhara Sakir Seva Yadhi Koro Diye Koro Nijadasi Hadi Koro Di Dina Krishna Das Koi Enamora Dina Krishna Das Koi Enamora Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sada Yenavasi Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadayana Vasi Govinda Preme Sadayana Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namo Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namo Jani Kanisa Papani Brahma Hatari Kanisa Tani Tani Pranasanti Pradakshana Pade Pade Jani Kanisa Papani Brahma Hatari Kanisa Tani Tani Pranasanti Pradakshana Pade Jani Kanisa Papani Brahma Hatari Kanisa Tani Tani Pranasanti Pradakshana Pade Pade Yani Kanisa Papani Brahmatari Kanisa Tani Tani Pranasanti Pradakshana Pade Pade Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Taigora Haribo 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 Nitagora Nitagora Haribo 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 Nitagora Premanande Hari Haribo Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyaye Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattvatai Namo Namo Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyaye Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattvatai Namo Namo Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyaye Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattvatai Namo Namo Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyaye Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattvatai Namo Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyaye Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattvatai Namo Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyaye Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradideve Sattavattaya Jai Srimati Tulasi Maharani Vrindadevi Ki Jai. O Tulsi, beloved of Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has wishes fulfilled. Bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that also you gave me a residence in pleasure groves of Sri Vrindavan now. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower, carry damsels of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant Krishna prays. May I always sing and love Shri Radha and Govind. Shri Mati Tulsi Maharani Vrindadevi Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Ki Jai. Chito Darpanam Arjunam Bhavamada Bhagni Nirvapanam Shri Akariva Chandrika Vitaranam Vidya Vadhu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Patiparam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatmasnam Param Paramijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Baudhani Sarva Shaktis Tatrarpitani Amitashmarane Nakala Itadrusitava Kripaya Bhagavan Mamapi Durdhaiva Midishamiyajani Nanuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saishuna Amani Namanadena Kirtaniya Sada Hari Na dhanam na janam na sundarim Kavitam vaja garishaka maye Mama janmani janmanishwari Bhavatar bhaktira ituki tvai Avai nandatanuja kinkaram Paritamam vishame bhavam buddho Kripaya tapapara pankaju Sitaduli sadrisham vichintaya Nayanam galora shrudharaya Vadanam gadu gadarudaya gira Pulakarin chitam papukada Tavanama grane bhavisati Jugayitam nimeshena Chakshusha prarusaitam Shunya itam jagata sarvam Govinda virahena me Aslishtabha padaratam pinashtumam Adarshanar marmahatam karotuva Jata tathava vidadatu lampato matpranatastu sa eva naparaha Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Ki Jai. Namo Mahavarannaya Krishna Prema Pradayati Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratvishe Namaha. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of a conditional life with repeated birth and death. This Sankirtana is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus we have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There is no even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once we chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than stroll in the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yes, some or other I have fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up? When will the hairs on my body stand on end at the recitation of your holy name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he sure remains so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Shri Shikastakam Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who dedicate life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the names of demigods, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literatures and pursuits of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which often Vedas as fruitive activity, karma, kanda. 9. To instruct the fullest person about the glories of holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in chanting with the holy names, and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be irritating while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas devoted to the Lord. They are just like desire trees, they can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls.
Patrabhyascha kripas sindhu bevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskati Dasatane Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Guru Bhaktivinoda Guru Shri Guru Pranama Prayers Ki Jai Om Aganyati Mirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhistam Sakritam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatahapaja Kamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsa Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatan Vitam Tam Sajiva Saidvaitam Savadutam Padijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishaka Nivitamsa Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Guruvani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Tinamini Shri Vasubhanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhakti Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namastate Namaste Gauravani Shimurtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Apasiddhanta Dvantaharine Namo Gaura Kishoraya Shakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambhade Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Chitanandamine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gauravir Bhava Bhumestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Sri Jagannatayate Namaha Vanchakalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gurachase Namaha Panchatatvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhakta Hakam Namami Bhakta Sanktikam Hey Krishna Karana Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Suratura Bangur Mama Manda Matergati Matsarva Swapadambu Jo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadumadaha Shimad Ratnagara Simhasanastito Shimad Rasar Govindadevo Prastadi Bihi Sev Vimanam Pratsamarni Shiman Rasa Sarambi Vamsivata Tatastita Karsan Venuswanir Gopir Gopinatak Striyestruna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Stute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudi Gaur Bhaktavindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Guru Pranama prayers Ki Jai Gaur Premanandi Hari Bol. Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2 Chapter 9 and text number 35 again, because it's so important. We want to go over this one more time. And this verse says, Yata mahanti bhutani bhutesu cha swachesvanu pravistan apravistani tata tesu natesvaham. Yata, just as, mahanti, the universal, bhutani, elements, bhutesu, ucha avachesu, in the minute and gigantic, anu, after, pravistani, entered, apravistani, not entered, tata, so, tesu, in them, na, not, tesu, in them, aham, myself. Translation by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created, and at the same time I am outside of everything. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So, we don't have to read the whole thing. I just want to go over the last two paragraphs because they're so important. And Prabhupada says, therefore, although He is present in every atom, the Supreme Personality Godhead may not be visible to the dry speculators. Still, the mystery is unfolded before the eyes of the pure devotees because their eyes are anointed with love of Godhead. And this love of Godhead can be attained only by the practice of transcendental loving service to the Lord and nothing else. The vision of the devotees is not ordinary. It is purified by the process of devotional service. In other words, as the universal elements are both within and without, similarly, the Lord's name, form, quality, pastimes, entourage, etc., as they are described in the revealed scriptures or as performed in the Vaikuntha lokas far, far beyond the material cosmic manifestation, are factually being televised in the heart of the devotee. Well, that's a big, big point. And this is also validated by Brahma Sumita, where it says, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santak Sadeva Hidaya Suvilokayante Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. And Prabhupada does quote that verse in a further verse where he says, when one applies the salve of love of God to the eyes, at that point tears develop in the eyes of love of God, and that clears the cataract of one's eyes, and one is able to see the Lord and the spiritual world. So this is what happened to Brahma. This happened to Narada Muni. It happened to Vyasadeva, and Sanjaya also has this power of seeing the Lord, and therefore, but it's all based on attaining love for the Supreme Lord through regulated and uninterrupted devotional service. And also eliminating all material desires in the heart and replacing them with only desires to please the Lord. So, this is possible for everyone. And we see, like for example, in the 11th chapter, 8th verse, Natumam sakshase drastum anennaiva swachaksusa divyam dadami te chaksu pasyame yugam aiswaram. So here, Krishna is saying to Arjuna, but you cannot see me with your present eyes. Therefore, I give you divine eyes. Behold my mystic opulence. Okay, you see, there's something mysterious about this. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, a pure devotee does not like to see Krishna in any form except his form with two hands. A devotee must see his universal form by his grace, not with the mind, but with spiritual eyes. To see the universal form of Krishna, Arjuna is told not to change his mind, but his vision. The universal form of Krishna is not very important. That will be clear in subsequent verses. Yet, because Arjuna wanted to see it, the Lord gives him the particular vision required to see that universal form. Devotees who are correctly situated in transcendental relationship with Krishna are attracted by loving features, not by a godless display of opulences. The playmates of Krishna, the friends of Krishna, and the parents of Krishna never want Krishna to show his opulences. They are so immersed in pure love that they do not even know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In their loving exchange, they forget that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that the boys who play with Krishna are all highly pious souls, and after many, many births, they are able to play with Krishna. Such boys do not know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They take him as a personal friend. Therefore, Sukadeva Goswami recites this verse, Itam satam brahma sukhanubritya dasyam gatanam paradaivatena maya shritanam naradarakena sakam vrijaru krita punya punja. Here is the Supreme Person who is considered the impersonal Brahman by great sages, the Supreme Personality Godhead by devotees, and a product of material nature by ordinary men. Now these boys, who have performed many, many pious activities in their past lives, are playing with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 12, 11. The fact is that the devotee is not concerned with seeing the Vishwarupa, the universal form, but Arjuna wanted to see it, to substantiate Krishna's statements, so that in the future people could understand that Krishna not only theoretically or philosophically presented himself as the supreme, but actually presented himself as such to Arjuna. Arjuna must confirm this, because Arjuna is the beginning of the parampara system. Those who are actually interested in understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and who follow in the footsteps of Arjuna should understand that Krishna is not only theoretically presenting himself as the Supreme, but actually revealed himself as the Supreme. The Lord gave Arjuna the necessary power to see his universal form, because he knew that Arjuna did not particularly want to see it, as we have already explained. Okay, so Krishna can give transcendental eyes or spiritual eyes to see the spiritual reality. So that's one example of it right there. There's another example of it in the case of Brahma, where Brahma was performing tapasya for millions of years. And at one point, when Krishna is pleased with his tapasya, what happens? First of all, Brahma received some instruction from Saraswati, divine consort of the Supreme Lord. And she says to Brahma, who saw nothing but gloom in all directions, O Brahma, this mantra, Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha, will assuredly fulfill your heart's desires. So this is called the 18-syllable mantra. And Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes, the mantra, consisting of the 18 divine letters prefixed by the Kama Bija, is alone super excellent. It has a twofold aspect. One aspect is that it tends to make the pure soul run after the all-attractive Supreme Krishna, the Lord of Gokula and the divine milkmaids. This is the acme, the highest point of the spiritual tendency of jivas, when the devotee is free from all sorts of mundane desires and willing to serve the Lord, he attains the full fruition of his heart's desire, and that is the love of Krishna. So here it's clearly said that one has to give up all mundane desires, and one has to be willing to serve the Lord. Then one can achieve the fruition or the fruit of his or her heart's desire, which is to love Krishna. But in the case of the devotee who is not of unmixed aptitude, in other words, who has mixed desires, this super excellent mantra fulfills his heart's desire also. The transcendental Kama Bij is inherent in the divine logos located in Goloka, and the Kama Bij, pervertedly reflected in the worldly affairs, satisfies all sorts of desires of the mundane world. So we have to be careful when we chant this mantra, Om Krishnaya Govindaya Gopijana Vallabhaya Namaha Swaha. It has two functions. One, it could satisfy all your spiritual desires, as long as you have no material desires and only desire to please Krishna. And it can, but if you have mixed desires, it can satisfy your material desires, but you'll remain, or we will remain, entrapped in the material world. So we have to be careful. That's why one has to be purged of all, or purified of all material desires. And then, following that, tapastvam tapa etena tava siddhir bhavishyati. This is Brahma Sumita 25th verse. And it says, O Brahma, do thou practice spiritual association by means of this mantra, then all your desires will be fulfilled. So this is Saraswati speaking to Brahma. So all his desires for spiritual knowledge, for spiritual, let's say, intimacy with Krishna will be satisfied simply by chanting this mantra. And then what does Brahma do? Brahma, being desirous of satisfying Govinda, practiced the cultural acts for Krishna in Goloka, Lord of Svetadvipa, for a long time. His meditation ran thus. There exists a divine lotus of 1,000 petals, augmented by millions of filaments in the transcendental land of Goloka. On its whorl, on the top of the stem, there exists a great divine throne on which is seated Sri Krishna, the form of eternal effulgence of transcendental bliss, playing on his divine flute, resonant with the divine sound. With his lotus mouth, he is worshipped by his consorts and milkmaids with their respective subjective portions and extensions, and also by his external energy who stays outside, embodying all mundane qualities. Okay, so Maya stays outside of this intimate vision of Brahma, who's seeing Krishna, and he sees this amazing altar, not altar, but it's a great Vyasasan. It's golden, and Krishna is sitting on it, on top of the whorl, or the flower, the lotus flower, and he's seated in the form of eternal effulgence of transcendental bliss, and he's playing on his divine flute, resonant with divine sound, with his lotus mouth. Okay, and he's being worshipped by all the gopis with their respective subjective portions and extensions, and also by his external energy, Maya, who stays outside, embodying all mundane qualities. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes, although the object of meditation is fully transcendental, yet, owing to her nature, which is permeated with the quality of active mundane hankering, Maya, the non-spiritual potency of Krishna, embodying the principles of mixed sattva, rajas, and tamas in the forms of Durga and other non-spiritual powers, meditated on the Supreme Lord Krishna as the object of their worship. So long as there is any trace of mundane desire in one's heart, it is the object of worship of Maya Devi, Durga, who has to be worshipped by such a person. Nevertheless, the fulfillment of one's heart's desire results from the worship of the object of worship of Maya Devi, and not from the worship of Maya Devi herself. When it says the object of, when it says here the object of worship of Maya Devi, Durga, well, who's the object of worship of Maya Devi? It's Krishna. So it's, if you have to meditate on Krishna in order to see Krishna, not meditate on Durga, and not from the worship of Maya Devi herself. This is in accordance with the sloka, akama sarva kamava, moksakama udarati, tivrena bhakti yogena, yajata purusham param. The meaning of this sloka of the Bhagavatam is that through other gods, as distinct manifestations of the Supreme Lord, though other gods, as distinct manifestations of the Supreme Lord, are bestowers of sundry, or means various specific boons, yet a sensible person should worship the all-powerful Supreme Lord, giver of all good, with unalloyed devotion, without worshipping those mundane gift-giving deities. Accordingly, Brahma meditate upon Krishna and Goloka, the object of worship, from a distance of Maya Devi. True devotion is unalloyed devotional activity, free from all mundane desire. The devotion of Brahma, etc., is not unmixed devotion, but there is a stage of unmixed predilection, even in devotion for the statement of one's selfish desire. Thus, one has been fully described. This has been fully described in the concluding 5 slokas of this work. That is the easiest method of divine service prior to the attainment of self-realization by fallen souls. So, whether we have no desires, whether we have many, many desires, or whether we desire only Krishna, we should worship Krishna. So, therefore, it says, akama sarvakama va. So, akama means no material desires. Sarvakama va means infinite number of material desires. Va moksha karma, or if one is desiring liberation, one should go and worship Krishna. One should not go to the demigods. Okay. Then Gayatri, next verse. Mother of the Vedas, being made manifest, that is, imparted by the divine sound of the flute of Sri Krishna, entered into the lotus mouth of Brahma, born from himself through his 8 ear holes. The lotus-born Brahma, having received the Gayatri sprung from the flute song of Sri Krishna, attained the status of the twice-born, having been initiated by the supreme primal preceptor, Godhead himself. Wow. So now in the purport, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes, the sound of Krishna's flute is the transcendental blissful sound, hence the archetype of all Veda is present in it. The Gayatri is Vedic rhythm. It contains a brief meditation and prayer. Kama Gayatri is the highest of all the Gayatris because the meditation and prayer contained in it are full of the perfect transcendental sportive activities that are not to be found in any other Gayatri. The Gayatri, so Gayatri is a rhythm. It's a specific type of rhythm, and rhythm has beats to it, or it has a certain number of syllables, and it's chanted in a certain way. Okay. But when it's a Kama Gayatri, there's Kama Bij Gayatri, which is the 18th syllable Gayatri, and then there's the Kama Gayatri, which is 25 syllables. And this is the greatest of all Gayatris. The Gayatri that is attained as the sequel of the 18-lettered mantra is Kama Gayatri, which runs thus. Klim Kama Devaya Vidmaye Pushpa Banaya Dhimayi Tanno Nanga Prachodayat. In this Gayatri, the realization of the transcendental pastimes of Sri Gopi Janavallabha, after perfect meditation and the prayer for the attainment of the transcendental God of love, are indicated. In the spiritual world, there is no better mode of endeavor for securing the super excellent rasa bedewed love. As soon as that Gayatri entered into the ear holes of Brahma, he became the twice-born and began to chant the Gayatri. Whoever has received the same Gayatri, in reality, has attained his spiritual rebirth. So one must receive it orally. I remember when I received my Gayatri from Prabhupada, he made me come into his room. This was in London, and there was nobody else in the room. He made me sit down right next to him, and he made me repeat. He said first, and then I had to repeat the words of the Gayatri mantra. So the same thing is being said here. As soon as that Gayatri entered into the ear holes of Brahma, he became the twice-born and began to chant the Gayatri. Whoever has received the same Gayatri in reality has attained his spiritual rebirth. The status of a twice-born, that is, obtained in accordance with one's worldly nature and lineage by the fettered souls in this mundane world, is far inferior to that of the twice-born who obtains admission into the transcendental world, because the initiation or acquisition of transcendental birth as a result of spiritual initiation is the highest goal, in as much as the jiva is thereby enabled to attain to the transcendental realm. That's why Prabhupada is most merciful. He came to give us all this transcendental opportunities. And then it says, in text 28, enlightened by the recollection of that Gayatri embodying the three Vedas, Brahma became acquainted with the expanse of the ocean of truth. Then he worshipped Sri Krishna, the essence of all Vedas, with this hymn. So then in the purport, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, Brahma thought thus within himself, by the recollection of Kama Gayatri, it seems to me that I am the eternal maidservant of Krishna. Though the other mysteries in regard to the condition of the maidservant of Krishna were not revealed to him, Brahma, by dint of his searching self-consciousness, became well acquainted with the ocean of truth. All the truths of the Vedas were revealed to him, and with the help of those essences of the Vedas, he offered this hymn to the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. Shriman Mahaprabhu has taught this hymn to his favorite disciples in such as it is fully contained, in such as it fully contains all transcendental truths regarding the Vaishnava philosophy. Readers are requested to study and try to enter into the spirit of this hymn with great care and attention as a regular daily function. And then it begins. Chintamani prakadisat masukalpa vriksha lakshavrite susurabir abhipaliyantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasam Brahma Sevyamanam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. So, now he's talking about the transcendental verses that Brahma is chanting as a result of the Kama Gayatri. He also chants the Brahma Sumita, which gives all the essential truths. As it says here, it contains all the essences of the Vedas. So we see one thing is leading to the other. The Kama Gayatri and the Kama Bij, or the Kama Bij Gayatri, is leading into the Brahma Samhita itself, where all the fundamental truths of the Vedas are revealed. And it says, readers are requested to study and try to enter into the spirit of his hymn, Brahma's hymn, with great care and attention as a regular daily function, which is what we're going to start doing again. So that's a second example. So Krishna gives the eyes to Arjuna to see the his universal form. And Brahma receives from Krishna the ability to see Krishna himself. Of course, Arjuna is seeing Krishna, but he wanted to see his universal form. But Brahma was not seeing anything, so Krishna gives him the eyes to see him. And sitting on this transcendental golden throne in Svetadvip in the spiritual world, and also reveals to him the Brahma Samhita. In other words, Brahma is able to recite the Brahma Samhita by the mercy of the Lord, and he also recites the Kama Bij Gayatri and the Kama Gayatri. Okay, so another example is given in the Adi Lila, chapter 5, verse 22. And that is the verse, Chintamani Prakara Sadma Sakalpa Riksha Laksavrite Susudabhirabi Palyantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasam Brahma Sevyamanam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending cows, yielding all desires in abodes built with spiritual gems and surrounded by millions of purpose trees. He is always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. Wow, what a wonderful vision. And in the purport, Prabhupada writes, this is a verse from the Brahma Samhita 529. This description of the abode of Krishna gives us definite information of the transcendental place where not only is life eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge, but there are ample vegetables, milk, jewels, and beautiful homes and gardens tended by lovely damsels who are all goddesses of fortune. Well, how did Brahma compose the Brahma Samhita? He was seeing this, and the history of how he was able to see it is given in the beginning of the Brahma Samhita. We just read it, and now he's sharing the ability of seeing the spiritual world with us. And Lord Chaitanya specifically recommended his devotees to chant this Brahma Samhita every day, because it contains all the truths of the Vedas, and even more. It gives a vision of the spiritual world. So it says, in the beginning of Lord Brahma's self-realization, he was shown a transcendental vision of the Vaikuntha spheres by the grace of Narayana. Later, by the grace of Krishna, he was shown a transcendental vision of Krishna Loka. This transcendental vision is like the reception of television from the moon via a mechanical system for receiving modulated waves, but it is achieved by penance and meditation within oneself. So, he doesn't say it is a mechanical transmission like television. He says it's like it. It's like it. But it is achieved not by technology and combination of matter, but it's achieved by penance and meditation within oneself. And what are we meditating on? We're meditating on the super soul within oneself, or Krishna. So, this is something everyone can achieve. Of course, we are dumbed down by modern education and dumbed down by mechanical scientific advancements, so-called advancements. And we think that this is a fairy tale, it's not real. But it is real. That's the whole point. But how will you understand that it's real? Only if you hear every day Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita spoken by genuine devotees. Otherwise, you'll never understand. You'll never have the faith that such a thing is possible. And everything depends on faith. And faith will always precede knowledge. And by developing our faith in Krishna consciousness and following Krishna consciousness very strictly, we eventually will attain love for Krishna. And then everything is revealed. So, our tapasya is waking up early every day, bathing, coming to Mangala Aarti, doing Tulsi Puja, and hearing the class, and then make sure we chant our rounds. So someone asked me the question, so what are the short-term and long-term goals in Krishna consciousness? Well, the short-term goals are what I just said. Waking up early every day, coming to Mangala Aarti, participating in the morning program, which starts here at 5:30 and ends around 7:30. Right. So whether you do it from home or you do it in person in the temple, in person in the temple is even better because there's certain things that may not be shown on the Zoom, but you get a better understanding in live attendance. So, is this possible? Absolutely. Brahma is a jiva like us. We are all jivas. But he was willing to accept the instructions of Krishna and follow them strictly. And for a long time. And then he was awarded by Krishna to be able to have this power of this internal vision, of joining this internal transmission of knowledge and spiritual reality. So it says, Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, states that in Vaikuntha Loka, the material modes of nature, represented by the qualities of goodness, passion, and ignorance, have no influence. In the material world, the highest qualitative manifestation is goodness, which is characterized by truthfulness, mental equilibrium, cleanliness, control of the senses, simplicity, essential knowledge, faith in God, scientific knowledge, and so on. Nevertheless, all these qualities are mixed with passion and imperfection. But the qualities in Vaikuntha are a manifestation of God's internal potency, and therefore they are purely spiritual and transcendental, with no trace of material infection. No material planet, even Satyaloka, is comparable in quality to the spiritual planets, where the 5 inherent qualities of the material world, namely ignorance, misery, egoism, anger, and envy, are completely absent. Whoa, what an amazing point. Okay, so we should aspire to go back to Godhead. But you don't necessarily have to physically go back to Godhead. You spiritually go back to Godhead, even in the material world. So this Brahma's vision was in the material world. Arjuna's vision is in the material world. Narada's vision also of Krishna was in the material world. Dhruva Maharaj's vision of Krishna was also in the material world. So it's not, this transcendental vision is not a geographical thing. It says everything is the kingdom of God. Everything coming from Krishna is spiritual. There's nothing outside of that. So even in the material world, one can evolve this, not evolve, but be blessed with this spiritual vision of the spiritual world. So another example of this is also Sanjaya. He's seeing Krishna in the material world from a long distance, and he's hearing Krishna. Right? So many examples are there. It's up to us to believe it, but we only believe it if we have association with genuine devotees who have absolute faith in this. One does not, like I was speaking to someone recently, and he told me that he's not sure if he actually has faith. I said, what? I said, you cannot be a devotee and not have faith. I said, everything is based on faith in Krishna. Your position as a devotee is based on your faith in Krishna. Yasya Devi para bhakti yata Devi tata kuru tashyate katita hiyartak prakasante mahatmana. One who has absolute faith in Krishna and the spiritual master, then all the imports, or all the understandings of the Vedic knowledge is revealed to such a person who's always engaged in Krishna's service. So if one doesn't have faith, they have no standing in Krishna consciousness. But how do you have faith? You don't get it by meditating or standing on your head or doing breathing exercise. You get it by associating with people on a regular basis who have faith. So I was very surprised when this person told me that. And I explained to them, I showed them, in Bhagavad Gita, for example, in the 4th chapter, a very nice verse. There are many, many beautiful verses with the same point. So the 4th chapter, Shadava labhate jnanam tat para samyatendriya. Jnanam ladva param santim achiren adigachati. It's a very, very important verse. And it says, a faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge. Now, all of us are dedicated to transcendental knowledge because we're coming regularly to hear it. That means you're dedicated to transcendental knowledge, right? This is part of your life. Just like every day you eat and you sleep and you work. So every day we should also hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So a faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses. How do you subdue your senses? You keep them engaged in devotional service, right? Hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, so forth. And subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge. In other words, if you're dedicated, meaning you're going to hear every day and also read and also discuss and think about, then because you do that and at the same time subdue the senses, control the senses by keeping them engaged in Krishna's service, not by stopping them like the Mayavadis, but by keeping them engaged in Krishna's service and hopefully with affection and eventually love for the Lord, then one is eligible to achieve such knowledge. Eligible to achieve. And having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. This is a wonderful verse. Wonderful. And in the purport, it's a short purport, but it's short. This little short purport has everything in it. Such knowledge in Krishna consciousness can be achieved by a faithful person. You have to have faith. You see, you're not going to achieve this where your faith is wavering. You have to have strong faith by a faithful person who believes firmly. See, these are strong words. Believes firmly in Krishna. One is called a faithful man who thinks that simply by acting in Krishna consciousness, he can attain the highest perfection. That means you don't have to be an IT guy. You don't have to be, some big scholar. You don't have to be some big guru or anything like that. It's simply have faith and be absolutely sure that simply by engaging or acting in Krishna consciousness, he can attain the highest perfection. This faith is attained by discharge of devotional service and by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, which cleanses one's heart of all material dirt. So this faith is attained by discharge of devotional service and by chanting Hare Krishna, Mahamantra. And of course, associating with devotees. Lord Chaitanya recommended 5 things. He said, always chant Hare Krishna, and always hear Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and always associate with devotees, and always engage in deity worship, and always live in a holy place. These are 5 things that he recommended for everyone. If you do those 5 things, you'll be okay. So then it says, over and above this, one should control the senses. A person who is faithful to Krishna and who controls the senses can easily attain perfection in the knowledge of Krishna consciousness without delay. There it is. This is the whole story. Discharge devotional service, chant Hare Krishna, control the senses, follow Lord Chaitanya's 5 points, associate with devotees, hear Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita every day, and engage in devotional service, and live in a holy place, and engage in deity worship. There you go. Now, the opposite of this, ajnascha shadadanascha samsayatma vinashyati jnanam nayam lokosti na paro na sukham samsayatmanaha. But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness, they fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. So, you cannot be a devotee if you don't have complete faith. Hey, you can try, but at some point you will fall down because things will happen. Maybe you fail in achieving something. Something's going to happen, and you're going to say, "Oh, I don't believe anymore," because Krishna didn't give me this thing, Krishna's not obliged to give anything. We're obliged to give, not Krishna. So, okay. So now there's more information here where it says, in the same purport, but much farther on, it says, yeah, okay. Yogis, however, try to perfect their lives, and therefore the Bhagavad Gita enjoins that everyone should become a yogi. Yoga is the system for linking the soul in the service of the Lord. It's not linking the soul to meditating on the light or meditating on nothing. It's about linking the soul to the service of the Lord. Only under superior guidance can one practice such yoga in his life without changing his social position. As already described, a yogi can go anywhere he desires without mechanical help. For a yogi can place his mind and intelligence within the air circulating inside his body. And by practicing the art of breath control, he can mix that air with the air that blows all over the universe outside his body. Whoa, this is big science here. You see, you don't need anything outside. You don't need to go to MIT or Stanford or get a PhD in mechanical engineering or IT. You don't need any of that stuff. It's all internal. Everyone's looking outside for the truth, but actually we have to learn to look inside for the truth. So, it says, for a yogi can place his mind and intelligence within the air circulating inside his body. And by practicing the art of breath control, he can mix that air with the air that blows all over the universe outside his body. With the help of this universal air, a yogi can travel to any planet and get a body suitable for its atmosphere. Whoa, this is amazing. We can understand this process by comparing it to the electronic transmission of radio waves or radio messages. With radio transmitters, sound waves produced at a certain station can travel all over the earth in seconds. But sound is produced from the ethereal sky, and as already explained, subtler than the ethereal sky is the mind, and finer than the mind is the intelligence. Spirit is still finer than the intelligence, and by nature it is completely different from matter. Thus we can just imagine how quickly the spirit soul can travel through the universal atmosphere. So we see that the yogis can do this amazing thing, but much faster than the speed of wind is the speed of the mind, and much faster than the speed of the mind is the speed of intelligence, and much faster than the speed of intelligence is the speed of the soul. So there are many different levels here of achievement, but it's all based on tapasya. But what is a tapasya? It's simply following Krishna consciousness culture, rules and regulations. But one must eventually attain genuine affection and love for Krishna. If you simply follow the rules and regulations but don't attain love for Krishna, again you fail. Well, of course, it's a failure on a higher level, but you will not get the desired result. The desired result is only there when we have unalloyed love for Krishna and we have no other desires than to please the Lord. Okay. To come to the stage of manipulating finer elements like mind, intelligence, and spirit, one needs appropriate training, an appropriate mode of life, and appropriate association. So you need association, lifestyle, and training by genuine devotees to be able to manipulate these higher, subtle forces. The finer elements, manipulating the finer elements. Okay. Such training depends upon sincere prayers, devotional service, achievement of success in mystic perfection, and the successful merging of oneself in the activities of the soul and supersoul. A gross materialist, whether he be an empiric philosopher, a scientist, a psychologist, or whatever, cannot attain such success through blunt efforts and word jugglery. Materialists who perform yagyas or great sacrifices are comparatively better than grosser materialists who do not know anything beyond laboratories and test tubes. The advanced materialists who perform such sacrifices can reach the planet called Vaishvanara, a fiery planet similar to the sun. On this planet, which is situated on the way to Brahmaloka, the topmost planet in the universe, such an advanced materialist can free himself from all traces of vice and its effects. When such a materialist is purified, he can rise to the orbit of the pole star, Dhruvaloka. Within this orbit, which is called the Shishumara Chakra, are situated the Aditya Lokas and the Vaikuntha planet within this universe. Wow. See, there's so many mysterious things we don't know about. A purified materialist who has performed many sacrifices undergoes severe penances and given the major portion of his wealth in charity can reach such planets as Dhruvaloka. And if he becomes still more qualified there, he can penetrate still higher orbits and pass through the navel of the universe to reach the planet Maharloka, where sages like Bhrigu live. In Maharloka, one can live even to the time of the partial annihilation of the universe. This annihilation begins when Anantadeva, from the lowest position in the universe, produces a great blazing fire. The heat of this fire reaches even Maharloka, and then the residents of Maharloka travel to Brahmaloka, which exists for twice the duration of Prarabdha time. In Brahmaloka, there is an unlimited number of airplanes that are controlled not by yantra, machine, but by mantra, psychic action. Because of the existence of the mind and intelligence on Brahmaloka, its residents have feelings of happiness and distress, but there is no cause of lamentation from old age, death, fear, or distress. They feel sympathy, however, for the suffering living beings who are consumed in the fire of annihilation. The residents of Brahmaloka do not have gross material bodies to change at death, but they transform their subtle bodies into spiritual bodies and thus enter the spiritual sky. The residents of Brahmaloka can attain perfection in three different ways. Virtuous persons who reach Brahmaloka by dint of their pious work become masters of various planets after the resurrection of Brahma. Those who have worshipped Garbhodaksha Vishnu are liberated with Brahma, and those who are pure devotees of the personality of Godhead at once push through the covering of the universe and enter the spiritual sky. So this keeps going on. These are all things that are possible to attain by devotees. But the highest, even Brahma Loka did not obtain all these things, right? He obtained certain things which are transcendental, but there were other things that he still did not realize. And now you can see the different gradations of levels of realization and attainment. So, all this information is given in the beginning of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, but there are hints to it, and also the other, let's say, indications of it in Bhagavad Gita, the Brahma Samhita, and of course in this second canto, chapter 9. So we didn't finish that, so let's just finish that. Therefore, although Krishna is present in every atom, the Supreme Personality of Godhead may not be visible to the dry speculators. Still, the mystery is unfolded before the eyes of the pure devotees because their eyes are anointed with love of Godhead. And this love of Godhead can be attained only by the practice of transcendental loving service of the Lord, and nothing else. The vision of the devotees is not ordinary. It is purified by the process of devotional service. In other words, as the universal elements are both within and without, similarly, the Lord's name, form, quality, pastimes, entourage, etc., as they are described in the revealed scriptures or as performed in the Vaikuntha Lokas, far, far beyond the material cosmic manifestation, are factually being televised in the heart of the devotee. Factually being televised in the heart of the devotee. Factually, the spiritual developed person is able to see, developed person is able to have the television of the kingdom of God always reflected within his heart. That is the mystery of knowledge of the personality of Godhead. This is a mystery of knowledge. So people like Microsoft and other companies, they want to put a chip in your brain inside so that you can see internet. You can access the internet. But this is all artificial stuff. You don't need that. You have all the equipment already to access the Krishna television. The television of the kingdom of God, always reflected within his heart. This is the mystery of knowledge of the personality of Godhead. Okay. So, are there any questions anyone wants to ask? Yeah. Ask it on the microphone.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Yes.
Maharaj, you have read in Chaitanya Charitamrita verse, Adi Lila 5.22.
Yeah.
In the first paragraph, the last line, it says, but it is achieved by penance and meditation within oneself. In the first paragraph, last line. So, my question is...
Transcendental vision.
Yeah, transcendental vision is like the reception
of television from the moon via a mechanical system for receiving modulated waves, but it is achieved by penance and meditation within oneself. Yes.
So my question is, Maharaj, if you can elaborate on meditation within oneself, like
meditation within oneself means that you are always aware of the presence of super soul within your heart. And you are, what does it mean? It means like this. It's in the 15th chapter. Let me find that verse. Yomam evam samoha janati purushottamam sasarva vid bhajanti mam sarvabhavina bharata. 15:19. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharata. So that is, so let's see what it says in the purport. There are many philosophical speculations about the constitutional position of the living entities and the Supreme Absolute Truth. Now, in this verse, the Supreme Personality of Godhead clearly explains that anyone who knows Lord Krishna to be the Supreme Person is actually the knower of everything. The imperfect knower goes on simply speculating about the Absolute Truth, but the perfect knower, without wasting his valuable time, engages directly in Krishna consciousness, the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Through the whole Bhagavad Gita, this fact is being stressed at every step, and still there are so many stubborn commentators on Bhagavad Gita who consider the Supreme Absolute Truth and the living entities to be one and the same. So meditating on Super Soul means that you understand Super Soul, or Krishna, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the way you meditate is through devotional service. Unalloyed devotional service, with no other desire than to please the Lord. That is meditation. Real meditation, as opposed to phony meditation.
Thank you.
Okay? Because, yeah, you say meditation, you think, well, you sit there like some Mayavadi, you know. No. Real meditation is unalloyed and unwavering devotional service every day. No vacation. No Disneyland. No Las Vegas. No Mexico. Only devotional service. Okay? Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Bando Mui Savadana Mate Bando Mui Savadana Mate Janara Prasade Bhai He Bhavatori Ajay Krishna Prapti Oya Oite Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite Guru Mukha Padma Vaikya Chitete Goriyakya Arana Koriya Maneya Sa Arana Koriya Maneya Sa Shri Guru Charane Rati Ese Utamagati Shri Guru Charane Rati Ese Utamagati Ye prasade pure sarva asa Ye prasade pure sarva asa Chakshudana dila jay janme janme Prabhu se Divya Gyan de Prakasito Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasa Jate Vede Gajanara Charito Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adana Janara Bandhu Lokena Lokera Jivana Ha Prabhu Koradoya Deha Muri Padachaya Ha Prabhu Koradoya Deha Muri Padachaya Ebe Ask Sukhi Bhuvana Vedika Janara Jiva Ebe Ask Sukhi Bhuvana Aha Prabhu Kuradoya Deha More Padachaya Ebe Ask Sukhi Bhuvana Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Nitai Gaura Haribo, Haribo, Hari Bol Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol Nitai Gaur. Jayom Vishnupad Paramhansa Padarajik Just Tata Satara Shri Shimad His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mayapura Dham Ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki Jai, Jamuna Maya Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavan Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Puti Srimati. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Rani Visesis Anivani Paskatya Lesatarine. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. Our spiritual master, the ocean of mercy, and the friend of the poor, and Lord and master of devotees. O Master, be merciful to us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread throughout all the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutali Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Kumani Vichari Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatara Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.